you know, just practice, you know, the theme of it having your back on the other hand, so that if you get down in one of those rabbit holes, that you can get back out and get to a place where you kind of know where you're at and can try again. If you can get to that point with Git, then you can explore those you know, different scenarios and try different things with it, and not kind of feel like you're not going to be able to find your way out of the wilderness, which is kind of where I was for the first couple of years of using Git. Just very tentative with it, and it was a shame, because you know it's really very simple in the way that it's put together. The commands are very complex. There's a whole constellation cloud of these things you can do with Git that are very, very complicated. But what it is, you know, and the way the repo is put together is just, it's really brilliantly straightforward. So today we'll just use some commands that implement workflows. We won't look at too many workflows, like full-fledged workflows, because there are going to be so many that you'll encounter that it wouldn't, I don't think, do much good. But these are the way that you would implement those workflows. The things we'll look at today, there's something that you'll use no matter what you're up against, you know, in the real world, so to speak. So so with that, let me share my screen here again. Okay, so we've been working locally with Git, and mostly will today, with one exception. So everything that we're doing is in the repo that you have under that .git directory. So the exception will be, I'll get into the exception in a minute. But we'll cover some merging, we'll cover some branching, but we'll mostly cover the cases where you kind of get off in the weeds, because I think you guys have already done some merging and branching already. Let me know if I'm making a bad assumption there, but you'll sort of get what that is as we go, I believe, if you haven't. We'll look at you know, the commit graph a lot, and kind of keep track of what's happening to the commit graph as we do these different operations. And as we go, the idea again is that we are gaining confidence that we know what's going on with Git, and then we can bend it to our will. Here's some of the terms that we'll have covered in the context of using these commands here. So let's look at the first one here. So forgot to get pulled before committing and pushing. Has anybody ever run into that already? You go and you start to do your work, and you're looking at a branch maybe that you haven't touched in a while, but it's been in your workspace, and you know, somebody's assigned you something, or you think of something you need to do there, and you do it, and then you go to push after you've added and committed, and it just gives you this error here. Failed to push some refs. So what's going on there? Can anybody describe why that would happen in this scenario? What's Git telling us there?
Is that like you don't have anything associated to it in GitHub?
It's saying that we don't have that our branch is currently ahead of our master because our master is behind our.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay, that's part of it. Yeah, that your branch is behind, but
branch. Okay.
But it's going to be behind. It's it's going to be behind unless you pull, but more than just being behind, it's also diverged. So if we look at our repo that we pulled down, actually, has anybody, let's see, how should we do this? Your repo, if you left it as it was last week, is going to be probably in a slightly strange state if you've done any work on it. So let's pause here a minute and see what your repo looks like. So in this graph, I'm looking for head because that's where I'm at, right? There've been some other work that's been done up here by me later on, but now I'm on master, and this is where my head is, and that's what I care about in this graph right now. And notice that it's lined up at this moment with origin master, right? So I'm sort of synced up right now on my master locally with origin master. If that isn't you, how do you get there using some of the concepts and commands we looked at last week? So you say you've made some commits and you're ahead, maybe you're ahead of origin master. How do you get back to this state where your master is pointing to origin master? Let's go through an example here real quick. So I have a file, test.sh. Let's echo something to the end of it just to make a change. Okay. So there's my change, right? Git status says it's changed. Git add. Git commit. Okay, now it's in my repo, right? So now, because this is the most recent change in my repo, all this jumps to the top of my graph, and there I am. Now I'm ahead of master, but I want to be back where my master is lined up with origin master. In other words, I just want to throw this stuff away. How would I do that?
You want to throw your change away?
Yeah, because this is just a learning repo. We just want to get in a known state where we're all consistent, right, with what is remote.
Right. So if you do,
but let's say
if you do git pull, if you do git pull, it usually fetches stuff from master. But I think if you do a git pull force or something, will it overwrite?
Okay, so git pull tells me I'm already up to date. Why would it tell me that?
Then git fetch just fetches stuff which you already have. Maybe merge. You could merge maybe origin master to master. Well,
okay, did it get
what if you did git merge?
Git merge says I'm already up to date.
What about git merge origin master?
Git merge.
Oh, actually, yeah, totally did it.
It's like that.
I think with a slash, origin slash master.
Oh, okay.
But I think you already have those changes in your. So, I guess the easiest thing would be to reset the previous commit, do a reset hard. But
yeah, that's what I'm getting at. So why is git merge telling us everything is already up to date? What's going on there?
Because you have those SHA commits already, or commit SHAs in your history, in your tree.
Right. So here's origin master. So git, I don't know if I covered this last week, but git pull is a two-stage operation. It's a git fetch and then a git merge. In case you haven't covered that already or you come across that. So git fetch only pulls over SHAs that you don't have. It doesn't change any pointers. it just brings them from over there to over here, basically, and then puts you in the position to do a git merge. So one of the things it would do is update this pointer, which is what origin master is. You know, it's what it thinks, it's the last known place of master on the origin remote. So, you know, you can't move it around. You can only update it in a read-only sort of way, right? So git fetch updates the notion of what that origin master is. So if somebody's committed code over wherever origin is, then that's how you find out about it, is to git fetch. and then that pointer will move, and then you'll see, oh, whoops, now I'm behind. And that's when you need to do a git merge to catch up. In this case, you know, nothing's happened over there, so we don't have anything to do as far as catching up with what's over there. Does that make sense to everyone? So, but we are ahead of what is over there, so we want to get back there. So yeah, git reset -- hard, and what do we tell it to get back to where we want to be?
Head, correct.
Yeah, go to the place before where I'm at now, which happens to be origin master. We could also just say origin/master. Anything that resolves to a SHA, right? That's what reset's looking for. Just give me the point you want me to put you at, and I'll put you there, is what it's going to do. Okay, and so here we are back down at origin master. And because it's, you know, it's an older commit, it's kind of, you know, back down, further down on the graph now. And we've pretty much forgotten about the one that we have done before. Does anybody remember how we could get it back if we wanted to? I don't know if maybe I didn't cover this, but there's a local command called Git Ref Log. It kind of just tells us where we've been last, only for our local repo, or where head has been last specifically. So if we wanted to, we could go back to here and do, you know, put a branch on it to tag it, or put a tag on it. You could git tag it just to put it back in the graph. So there's our memory of where head has been. Okay, so here we are. We want to recreate this scenario. Okay, so follow along and, you know, do this in your environment with me. But we're going to make a file change, kind of like I just did, and add it. So I'll just do the same thing again. Echo, where's my echo command? I'm just up arrowing here. My command buffer, okay, so there's that. I just made a change. There it is. So actually, no, I'm off track. The first thing we need to do is we need to create a scenario where we have diverged from origin master. So if we want to diverge from origin master, we would have had to have started further back, right? We would have had to maybe start here and then made a commit off of there. So how do we get our master to 3E375A5?
Git reset hard, and then the commit SHA, the 3E 375.
Yeah, we could just say it like that. We could also, since we know head is right here, we could just do the head caret again. That would also work. Let's see how that looks. Okay, now we're back here. Okay, what's my status? Okay, because I did a reset, it blew away my change, but that's all right. We'll just do it again. I could have done a git stash. We'll cover that a little more later, but here we are. We're back. Back, made a change. Okay, and add it. Okay, and I'll give you a moment to follow along with that. If you want to do the same thing, we just did a git reset dash hard to head caret to basically get a little bit before master or before origin master, and then made a change. You know, I'm assuming you've got VS Code installed, so you can do the same thing by just opening up VS Code, you know, making some changes. And yeah, then save, git add, git commit. And now we should have something where, okay, here's origin master down here. It's coming off of this 3E375 commit. And then we've got our own commit coming off of 3E375, which is different. Okay, and you know, just to reconnect with what we're trying to do, we're basically trying to recreate a scenario where we made a commit without pulling first. We're basically origin master was say back at this 3E375, and then it went ahead and did this, and we went somewhere else and did that. And we're going to get ourselves out of that scenario. So anybody need a moment to recreate that situation? Okay, let's go ahead then. So here we are. Now you'll have to take my word for it a little bit. If you try to do a git push, you're going to get permission errors because you've just cloned this repo and not forked it. So, you know, I get that. You're going to get something like, you know, permission denied because you can't push into my repo anyway. So we'll go through that exercise of getting a fork out in a minute. But yeah, so what now? So we don't want to throw it away. That's what I did last time, right? I don't want to throw that away. I want to keep it now. So I could do, you know, a git merge, you know, or git pull with a merge. Let's try that. If I do a git pull now, okay. And so, you know, it'll let me merge, and I can go ahead and do that, and you know, save the merge message, and look at what happened. So now I've got a merge commit here, right? So what's wrong with that? Why wouldn't I want to do that?
So you would have like a merge commit that is not pretty, I guess.
Yeah, why isn't it pretty?
Because Git has to combine the changes and figure out like what goes where, I guess, and then it creates a new commit instead of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Git doesn't have any problem figuring it out. You know, it went ahead and did the automatic merge, and it went just fine. But as you know, if you're my teammate and you see that, you know, and I go ahead and push that, you're going to be like, oh, a merge. What is the reason for that merge? And you know, the reason is just that I was not real disciplined about my Git hygiene, if you will. So it just causes confusion, right? there's no real reason for it fundamentally. There's no like different work that went on that branch. I wasn't like off on my own, you know, just spiking out some new approach or, you know, something that I wanted to keep separate from master. I just forgot to pull first. So how would we do that in a cleaner way? First, how would we undo the merge? I don't want the merge. How do I undo that?
Reset.
I don't want this merge, right? I decided it's a bad idea. How do I just throw it away?
So reset.
Mm-hmm.
Git reset hard, head, correct.
Hard. Head caret. Now, so one thing about head caret is it says give me the commit, give me the parent of this commit. How many parents does this commit have?
There's 2.
Yeah. So which parent is going to be chosen?
Not sure.
Yeah, if I go and look at it right with our git cat file -p, you know, C1D0. This is the actually just head. That would be good enough. Yeah, 2 parents, right? Because it's a merge commit. So as it turns out, it takes the first one, and the first one happens to be the one we want. So head caret will work, but it's something to kind of be aware of is that if you find yourself in one of those, you know, off the ranch, you know, off the reservation situations where you don't know which one's going to be chosen, you'll have to get deeper into this whole sort of way of specifying this syntax. Either that or just make sure that you say exactly the one you want to go back to. In this scenario, it's pretty much it's going to choose the right one. It's just because of the way Git is set up, you know, to have this parent be the first one. So let's make sure we know where we're at here. Oh, I haven't actually. Have I done it? I thought I did it. Oh, I just did a cat file. Dope. Reset. Here we go. Good thing I checked. Okay, so here we are. We've diverged. It fails. We want to keep this change, but we want to keep it in a linear fashion, not a merge fashion. So what we would like to do is have, you know, this, and then this just on top of it, you know. So here's where cherry pick comes in handy. And if you looked at cherry pick briefly, it's just a way to grab a specific commit and plop it on. Basically, Git has a notion of playing or replaying. So it just puts the commit after you know your another given commit, you know, after the head of whatever branch you're on. So first we have to get back to that place though. So we have to find a way to keep track of the one that we want. So we could either just copy it like that, because all cherry pick needs is a SHA that it's going to use. We could also make a branch, right? We could just say git branch something to save, right? And now we've got a tag here on this for this SHA. Now that we've got that, we can go back to master, reset ourselves back to master. And what we would actually do if we were going, we would basically reset ourselves back to where we were before. So let's go back there. Because we're pretending that we haven't pulled yet, right? So here we are. Origin has moved ahead of us. We need to do a git pull now. And I also do this. I go ahead and do the git reset and make my tag, and then I forget to do a git pull again and just go ahead and get back in the same situation. So something to watch out for. Okay, so now git pull brought us up to date with Origin, right? Now we've moved from E37 now up to Origin master. Okay, now all we got to do is plop our change back on where it belongs. And that's as simple as just saying git cherry pick, and then we could, you know, take that. I've just copy pasted it so that we could do that. We could also do just reference the branch we created. That was another way to save. Okay. And now if we look at our graph, now we have, you know, where we were, we get pulled, we got up to here, and then we did our cherry pick, and now that same change got onto the place that we originally hoped that, you know, we thought it was going to go on to. So we've appended our work to the work that, you know, was done remotely that we forgot to pull in first. So any questions thus far on that scenario?
How this would be different from, let's say, a Git rebase, since we have that, yeah, since we have that branch and kind of does the same, because it makes those changes on top of master. So
you could use a Git rebase to accomplish the same thing, I believe. I haven't tried it. I mean, a Git rebase is, you know, it fundamentally replays things. You can replay a whole series of commits on top of a, you know, a chosen point. I think cherry pick could possibly be described as a kind of a reduced case of Git rebase, just a simple example of a Git rebase. Yeah, there's a lot of ways you could use Git rebase. I think you could also use Git cherry pick to pick more than one commit. I haven't, you know, really done that. If I've got to the point where I've got a bunch of commits that I've done, I would kind of lazily go back and just go ahead and merge it and say in my commit, I forgot to merge, you know, I forgot to pull, here they are. But if you really cared about, you know, being clean, you could use Git rebase and or Git cherry pick to make your commit history linear. And that's kind of along the theme, you know, the theme of communicating clearly through your Git repo. Took me a while to get up to that level because I was just more concerned about understanding what I was looking at than I was about, you know, making it say what I wanted for a while. But eventually that becomes important. You want to, you know, you want your team to, and yourself later on to be able to say, what in the world did I do here? Or where was that cool thing that I did that I always forget, but have to go back and, you know, look at the diffs and figure out what I did, and because I need to do it again over here. Okay, I'm going to pause for 5 minutes and give, you know, anybody that wants to just try that again a chance to do that, because I think it's important to do a little bit of sort of finger memory with this, because it will come up. So if you want to do that, you basically do git reset back to, you know, one commit before origin master. Make a change. You know, you will diverge. Then you tag that change and use git reset to back up. Do your git pull. Do your cherry pick, and then you should be good. So it's 9:31 right now. I'll give it to about 9, close to 9:40, and then check back in and see how it's going. All right, how's it going with everything? Make sense? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. I think you'll as you use Git, you'll end up using that little fix quite a bit, or at least some. So let's dig into merge collisions. Hit the blue share. Okay. So you probably possibly already dealt with merge collisions. I want to go through that a little bit just to make sure that we're all on the same page with understanding what's going on with it. Maybe you'll pick up a couple additional points from it. I was coming from other source code control systems, and they were very careful not to change the source code that I wrote when doing merges. And Git's not like that at all. Git sticks stuff into my source code when it's trying to resolve a merge collision that I have to fix, or it breaks my code. So it took me a little while to get over that, but once I did, I was able to move forward. So I want to go through that scenario and talk about what causes a merge collision and what it's telling you about how to resolve it, and kind of a couple different options that we could cover. So we have to create one first. If you're on the Learning Session 2 handout, go ahead and hit refresh, because I put in a command that I should have put in earlier. You may not, if you haven't done this already, this git config with this core.editor parameter basically tells Git to use VS Code as your editor when it's doing a Git merge, for instance, and elsewhere, of course, too. But in this case, it'll pop up VS Code when it runs into a merge collision. So creating a collision situation. How do we do that? We are on master. We do a git branch, verify that that's where we're at. Certainly are. I'm going to go ahead and delete my something to save because I'm already finished with it. Yeah, it's not merged. That's okay. I can use capital D. Okay, now my git branch is clean. Okay, so let's see where I'm at. So yeah, now that I've made that change, I'm going to throw it away again, just for illustration. So here I am back at origin master. So let's do a git show. And git show just takes whatever SHA you give it, which is head by default, and diffs against the commit before that. So what we're looking at from here on down is what I've committed, basically. So I first change git ignore. So here's the pluses. So there's the changes. I added a line at the end, 3 lines at the end, looks like. And then some other stuff, other files I changed. Here's, what does this mean right here? Anybody know? Minus, 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 dev null, plus, 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 append aliases to profile.sh. What's that telling me?
Dev null is like an empty file, right? Like a null file on the file system.
Right. So what does Git mean by that?
Means that we went from 0 to 100 real quick.
Yeah. Yeah, it says we went from a file that wasn't there to a file that is there. So we added a file. So that's Git's arcane way of saying that we've added a new file. And here's the contents of it. So let's choose one of those changes. How about the git ignore change? That looks like it's easy. So if we were to conflict with this change, we would have to, we'd have to diverge, and then we would have to change the same line to, in some other way. So if we were going to diverge from that change, what would our strategy be? So here we are here. What would our next step be?
We have to do some collisions. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
create some changes that are conflict. I mean,
Right.
that's the thing I have never figured out, like how Git kind of interprets what's a collision and what's a, just another change. Let's say an additional change. So
Right.
let's say extra lines instead of change lines. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, what we're going to do is basically change the same line and, in the same file that was changed on a divergent, a branch that we need to merge in. So first thing we need to do is branch off somewhere, right? So where should we branch from?
For master?
Well, we could, but then we would start with the change that we're trying to collide with if we did that. So we need to go somewhere earlier and, branch from there. So just for simplicity, we could just go one earlier. Right here, right? We could do back to this 3E375, which is just before where we're at now. So what would a command look like to do that? Okay, we're up to date. So get something, right? Check out. We'll call it collision branch. And now what else we got to tell our git checkout?
The commit shop.
Right.
So, or head correct maybe.
Okay. Yeah, if we said nothing, it would just assume we wanted to branch from right where we're at, which normally we do. But in this case, we want to branch from somewhere else. So yeah, so let's see what that did. Here's our graph again. Yeah, so now we've gone to this collision branch, which is one before master, right? We've already looked at .git ignore, so we know what we're going to change in order to collide. So let's open up our .git ignore, and down at the end was kind of where those changes were. Now notice, of course, this change is not here yet because it got made in a future commit. And we sort of know what it's going to be. It's going to be an empty line and then a, some comment, and then some, something here that gets ignored. And we're putting this exactly where the, this underscore site and, Jekyll thing is going to be so that we can collide with it, basically. So we'll save that. Do a git status. Okay, sure enough, it's modified. Git diff to see that, okay. Yep, down here, starting at line 40 is what got changed. So let's go ahead and add it. Okay, and let's look at our graph. Okay, here's our branch point. As we know, origin master went this way, but we went this way. So here we are up here with our change. Now Q for quit. And so now which way do we want to merge?
We want to switch to master.
Switch to master, okay.
And then we want to merge.
Collision branch. Okay. Okay. What do you know? It failed. So let's, of course, you know, VS Code popped open because now we've got merge conflicts to resolve. Let's look at the status. Okay, branch is up to date. Okay, so yeah, both modified. And it does tell us quite a bit about what to do. It walks us through pretty well what we've, you know, what our procedure should be. Fix the conflicts. If you want to just back away from everything, just use -- abort for git merge, and you know, it's as if nothing ever happened. But if we do want to do something, we would fix it and then do git add. But first, we've got to fix it. So here we are. Not sure how to make this larger. Equal and minus, is that right? It is, okay. So, anybody seen this before? So what happened here? Now, VS Code decorates this with a lot of extra stuff that's not actually in the file, if you'll notice. You know, if we actually cat out, and actually we can this file is kind of big, so next thing we can, instead of doing a cat, we can just do a tail of the file. That just shows us the last few lines. If we needed, you know, more than the last few lines, we could give tail a number. You know, we could say -100 or something, and it would do the last 100 lines. But this is good. This is good enough. So all that's really here is this, right? All this other stuff, you know, this current change in parentheses, this accept, compare. That's all just decoration from VS Code to help us through this painful process. So, so current change in head, what does that mean? Head of what?
Master?
Yeah, to make sense of it, we have to know where we're at, and we're on, you know, we're on master right now. So this is the thing that's on master. And then down here at the bottom, it says collision branch. So this is everything after this equal sign down to the, you know, greater thans is the thing that's coming in from our branch that we're merging. So now the question is, what's the right thing? What's the right change in this situation? Is it what's on master? Is it what's on collision branch? Or is it both? Or is it some you know, hybrid of the two?
I guess it's both in our case, since they're different comments or different configs.
Yeah, Yeah, that could be totally reasonable. We could want to, you know, in our get ignore exclude both kinds of files. And then we just, you know, to do that, we could edit it ourselves, or we could just use these handy little guys here to do the editing for us, right? If we click accept both changes, then there they are. Maybe we don't want this, you know, this thing here. We just want to have it like, so then we can make changes that make sense, you know, take both changes, but then keep editing until we have it just like we want it. You know, maybe there's some test suite we're running that we needed to pass, and we modify the test or something like that to make it pass. But whatever it is, you know, make it like we want it, save it. Okay, now we can do a diff, and you know, we see the old thing and the new thing. So it's interesting. This is the change that used to be on the incoming branch, rather than the change that used to be on master. So you got to kind of read carefully here what's actually telling you. But assuming you want it, you just do a git add. You know, then a git commit. You tell it something about the branch if you want, kind of totally up to you. And then now you've got your merge commit. But yeah, that's the simplest case, the most common case of when a merge collision happens is when, you know, the same thing, same line is changed in the same file. And there's no way that Git can decide what you want there. Right? There's two different minds at work, and you just have to tell it what the meaning of those minds is. So, any questions on that exercise? The thing I had to just sort out again for me was just what was being said by those all that garbage in my file. You know, the equals and the greater thans and less thans and head and branch, and like what was coming from where and what did I have to take out just because the syntax was unfamiliar to me. But once you get that sorted out, then it yields a lot better. So again, let me back off. It's about time for a break anyway. So I suggest giving that another round on your own. If you haven't gone through that exercise along with me, just go ahead and do that. And you know, convince yourself that it's behaving the way you expect, and let me know if there's any surprises along the way. We can talk about those, and then we'll come back at about between 5 after and 10 after.